Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Eastern Shore Talk, your podcast for all things self care and movies. This is your first time joining us. Welcome. We're glad to have you. This is episode 70. I'm Jay Watson.
And I'm Cathy Castle.
And since Kathy's going on vacation here shortly, we're pre recording this. So we're going to do a vacations episode, part two, real quick, and then talk a little bit about how to navigate changes in our lives. And since Kathy's had some change, and I'm one who has difficulty navigating change, we're going to, between the two of us, we're going to try to figure some stuff out. Yeah, so Kathy, let's talk about, instead of doing a check in, we'll just get right into kind of your upcoming vacation. It's kind of like, it's kind of sort of your tradition. You do some kind of cruise or something this time, at least the last couple of years anyway. So let's
Yeah.
talk about that real quick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we try to do something family, like larger family kind of stuff. For some reason, we've zoomed in on a cruise. This will be the third year in a row. So we're heading up to New York to go out of that port. Never gone out of the port in Manhattan before. And we're going back to Bermuda, which is where this will be the third year going to Bermuda because we really have enjoyed it. And I don't know if somebody hasn't been to Bermuda, or maybe you have. I just think it's a real easy thing to do off the East Coast. It's quick to get there. You don't have to involve airfare for the most part if you're living on the East Coast where we are. Actually, you probably don't have to fly to Bermuda if you're anywhere from Maine to the Carolinas. You can probably hop a boat that's the same distance there. So it's kind of cool. So we're excited about it. And it's different traveling with your adult children than your younger children.
Yeah.
So, that's different, but I like it. It's just different.
So I'm kind of curious. I mean, I've obviously I've gone on vacations with their, I've gone. Obviously, I do the solo vacation here lately, but in my lifetime I have gone on vacations with multiple people at any given time. But did you say there was 15? Did you tell
It's
me?
we have a total of 15, yeah,
Um,
going.
Talk about that dynamic because I've never done 15. I think maybe 6 or 8 was maybe the most I ever did at any one given time. I'm sure there's some logistical trying to wrangle 15 people all together on a schedule
Well,
probably.
the cruise, I don't know. I feel like the cruises are easy to do a bunch of people. Um, I've my family always kids and says that I'm the Julie McCoy cruise director anyway. Like I'm the person that researches the stuff, researches where we're going, kind of gets a game plan, and everybody just follows. So that's just what happens usually. And then so I have in my mind what's going on, and like for Bermuda, I already have my guy in Bermuda, Bootsy, waiting to pick us up. That's the friend I made, and now we're still friends. Um, and then there's kind of this cool thing if you have an Apple phone, and I know you do not, Jay. You have text. You can still text on these cruise ships. I don't really change anything about my plan. So, and I know my son just went away to Punta Cana, and he was able to text with the Apple phone. So I don't know if it's something with the iMessage in Apple, but it goes through. So what happens on the cruise is all of these people have Apple phones. So we then make a cruise
Is
text,
that a requirement to go on the cruise? They must have an Apple phone.
right? So, what usually happens is then everybody's texting, "Oh, I'm in the Bliss Lounge," or "I'm down on the pool deck getting." So you kind of know where everybody is. So back in the early days it wasn't really like that. You had to call the rooms and track people down, and then I do all the weirdo stuff. I buy stuff off Amazon. So I have the magnets to put on the doors. So if people want to find us, they can, if we're in a different section, or because you can get discombobulated real quick on these cruises. So it just, you end up being, it's a herd. And if people don't want to go do something, they can't, they know what you're doing because we're in this text thread.
Right.
But it's usually, if it's a boat day, people start out on the pool deck and there's entertainment and food, and then you go to shows at night and
Now,
consume a
see,
lot of alcohol.
the whole idea of a cruise, I have like mixed feelings about it because I've had opportunities to go on. I've been asked before to go on cruises and what I thought about. And there's parts of it that I'm very appealed to. Obviously, the food, the shows,
Yeah.
um, kind of the relaxing by the pool. You know, what depending on which, what line, which cruise line you go on, water slides and all that. You know, that kind of stuff. I'm all about that. But like I, and this was even I watched the Netflix has this new documentary
Nope.
called Sea Cruise.
I don't want to watch it. I can't. Not now.
Well, I watched that, and of course, it's about it's. I think it was 2021. The boat out in the Gulf of Mexico that just lost power. They couldn't use the toilets, so there was all that. Even prior to that, I'm just like, there's just, and they're saying there's 4,000 people on this boat. And I'm like, that's, I might stay in a hotel where there might be 100 people.
But you know what's funny, Jay? I swear, every single cruise I've been on, we've been cruising since well, our first one was when we got married, so 33 years. We've been cruising for 33 years. We've done it a long time. But it's I don't care how many people are on the ship. You see the same people. So it's like I don't know how that happens, but I'm like, and then we start. What our family does is start naming people. Like there might be a Jay Watson on the cruise, and you'd be like, "There's like
Oh my god, poor guy.
there was this guy last time, and it looked like this guy we know named Pete." and like eventually he heard us say, "There goes Pete." I guess we got louder, and he's like, "So my name's really Patrick." And we're like,
Who
"Oh heck,
knows?
oh my god!" But the thing is he would wear like Ravens and Maryland stuff. So the funny thing was he was from Maryland. But this Pete had a wife and a kid, and we're like, "Wow, we didn't know Pete had a secret family." So we made up all this stuff about Pete, which is really Patrick, and we ended up getting pictures with him. But everywhere we went, there he was. It's like, okay, there's 3,000 people on this ship, and why is Pete there? Pete Patrick every time. So it's just funny. I don't know why that happens, but
I'm sure I have a little bit of trouble getting seasick too. So I would be, even
well,
if
I'll
I'm
tell you what, Jay, that Bermuda. So I only got seasick one time, honestly. When I went out of Baltimore and went down, the intercoastal down to Florida, that got rough. But from land to Bermuda, you're going a different direction. It does not get wild. And also, I've done it from Florida or San Juan, and it's not wild if you start out down there. I feel like that Baltimore down can get a little rocky.
yeah,
But ours are pretty mild. I didn't feel sick at all.
because I
But when
think
you do feel sick, that's not good.
even if I did all the things, all the remedies, my anxiety, I would be thinking about it the whole time. Like, oh, I hope I don't get sick. You know what I mean? I
I feel
just,
like you just forget that. I've heard lots of people saying that, all those things that you're saying. But I feel like when you get on there, it's like anything. You forget where you are, and you're just in it. Like, I mean, I think it's amazing. There's nothing probably more beautiful to me than being on a deck and watching the sunset out in the
right,
middle
yeah.
of the big blue. And, like you could be sitting in a dining room and you'll see pot of dolphins go by. And it's just amazing to me how massive water is. I know that sounds really weird, but and all the things that are in there.
Oh yeah,
It's just wild if you think about it, right?
yeah.
And I don't know what I like about a cruise is I don't have to do anything, and that is the best week of my life. I don't have to make my bed. I don't have to cook. I'm just being entertained, and I love that.
Now, have you ever? 'Cause you'll see like these.
And you get a newsletter every day. It tells you what's going on, like a paper. You read it, like okay.
So there's some of these cruises where you'll see where not like the mega pop stars or whatever, but like maybe
Never seen anybody famous.
singers that are like maybe they're older or whatever. You'll see them do
They'll do
cruises.
'80s cruises and stuff. I would love to do something like that. I haven't.
So
I haven't.
that's always been one of my draws for wanting to go to Vegas is for the shows.
Like
Uh,
if I was on an '80s cruise or something, I feel like my stalking habits would kick in, and then I'd be obsessed with like stalking Rick Springfield, things like that. And
I think
you
that's kind
love
of
the shows.
Vegas is my kind of like number one on my list of go tos. Like,
I've never
uh,
been to Vegas. I would like to go there.
and it's funny, Kathy. Like you can get a flight and hotel package together that's actually about as cheap as you're going to get in the United States. But where they get you is the show. You might have to pay hundreds of dollars per ticket to go to a show.
I want to go to that Sphere.
Yeah, that's the big deal. Everybody's playing there. It's
I
crazy.
think that would be so. Somebody saw the Eagles there, and they said it was unbelievable.
Yeah, I was listening to another podcast, and they were talking about how they were researching going there because their show travels around sometimes, and they're
Huh?
going to go to Vegas. So they wanted to go to the Sphere. They were trying to see who was playing, and they said the cheapest ticket at the Sphere to watch anybody was like $500.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. Oh
So
no, I did one time. I did because Kenny Chesney was there. We really like Kenny Chesney, but he was only there for like 5 weeks. I would have, if I didn't have this all the stuff that was going on in my life, I would have hopped a plane and gone out there in a minute to see Kenny Chesney there.
that's kind of the new thing. A lot of the people aren't touring as much; they're doing residencies
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
in Vegas or wherever, different places. Um, Even Atlantic City's starting to get some pretty famous people doing like 2 or 3 week residencies there. Lake Tahoe's got some that do the same thing.
we need some big venue here on the East Coast. Some really cool one, right?
It's so funny that poop cruise thing on Netflix just is brand new. It just got released.
Of course it is. Of course it comes out right when I'm going to get on a cruise. I am not watching that.
And I'm thinking,
I will. I'm going
what
to tell
would
you
Kathy
what.
Council do if her boat
Listen, I'm
was
going to be on
off
a
an hour in the
dinghy.
middle of the ocean?
I'm going to be on a dinghy, and I'm going to be winding up whatever phone communication I have, and I'm calling you and saying, "Look what you did! You jinxed me."
Well, the good thing about your boat is on the one that got stranded, they had no internet. They had to use a satellite. Had one satellite phone on the ship to call for emergencies, or whatever. And what happened was they were going to Cozumel. They were headed out of Galveston, Texas, going to Cozumel. And when they lost power, they were within a certain range. They were going to get picked up and taken to Mexico. Well, as they sat there without power, they started drifting farther and farther away from land. So when they finally came to get them, they were close to the United States and had to take them to Mobile, Alabama. And so they were like out there like 5 days. Like they couldn't sleep in the rooms because it was too hot.
Oh
They were
my god!
they were taking
Oh,
mattresses out on the sun deck. They were peeing in the shower. They were asking them to poop in red plastic bags, and it was a whole thing. I'm like, And then when they started getting towed by the tugboats, the ship tilted. So now all that pain was all like literally you were walking through it in like the hallways and stuff.
I, man, I don't know.
I don't mean to scare you, throw a wrench in your, but maybe
Well, we're already we're got. So one of the couples that's going with us, two of their grown kids are going, and I think one of their boys is a little anxious, probably because of all this stuff. And then we're going through the Bermuda Triangle, so this kid.
yeah, but you're barely touching the very point of it. You're not going through the Bermuda Triangle.
Now we might have when we did the others because we went up to Bar Harbor. Nothing happened. Although I did have two girls that claimed they're from National Geographic. Not last year, but the year before. Say, "You mind if we tape you for National Geographic? I want to know what you think about the Bermuda Triangle." I'm like, yeah, whatever.
It's
I'm
funny
not
how that you
doing
don't
it right
see,
now.
it's funny how you don't see anything disappear here lately. Like in my lifetime, I can't remember anything. Like while I've been alive, obviously I've watched the documentaries where back in history all kind of stuff disappeared, but I can't remember in since I've been paying attention to the news anything disappearing out there. Anything.
No, I'm not buying the. I'm not buying it. It's other things.
Yeah, there's now. Don't get me wrong. I think there are some theories that they've introduced, like there's natural gas deposits, and every once in a while, and that's science. I mean, that makes reasonable
Yes.
scientific sense. Where if you're a boat and like literally, you don't just slowly sink; you like disappear, like you go way down instantly. So, there is no wreckage or
Hey, really?
look. But you're not going in that area. You're way north of all that, so you're not going through the natural gas deposits. You might hit an iceberg or something way up that far. Well, probably not
Yeah.
there. Not
Well,
this time. Not this time.
hopefully I'll be seeing you guys later in the month for a podcast.
So hopefully you don't have poop on your feet or any of that stuff when you come back. Like
My
poop
God.
cruise.
Yeah, no, that's not. Just
So
gonna stay in
did you
Bermuda.
go? I remember last year you went right around the same time because you actually last year saw the fireworks in
Oh
Boston,
yeah, in
right?
Boston.
But you're
I don't
leaving
know
right
why we picked
after.
the same time. I don't know what's going on. But yeah, we're leaving on the 6th of July.
Okay, that would be cool to be in New York and see their fireworks.
Yeah, we thought about that, but I'm like, we've had so much, like, we had this wedding, and then
Yeah,
I just literally rolled back from the beach camping.
yeah,
So we're like, we're tired. I'm just gonna, I'm probably just gonna drive to New York that day, that Sunday,
yeah. What's it,
and
4.5 hours?
get on. Yeah, and if we go early, because we board the ship at noon, if we go early, we'll beat the traffic.
Yeah,
Because last year when we traveled, we actually traveled on the 4th of July. Actually, did we? Yeah, but we didn't get on the boat till the 5th. We went on the 4th of July, stayed in Boston, and there was like no traffic. I could not believe it. I guess
and
people
Boston is notorious for bad traffic.
yeah, I guess
Yeah,
people were already where they needed to be. I don't
yeah.
know. Now I did not see the fire. Yes, I did. Why am I saying I didn't? I
Yeah,
did
you
see
told me you did.
fireworks.
Yeah,
I told you about it. Because that's right. We went to the bar Cheers. God, I love Boston. I love Boston. Yes, we did see fireworks. That was nice.
no, I got. I think I told you a story where I went to. I did one of those bus shopping trips to Manhattan. This
Yeah.
was a long time ago. This was probably 15 years ago. And Kathy, I tell you, like during the day, I was fine. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed when I did the. It was November. It was before. It was two
You
weeks
did all the
before
things.
Thanksgiving. So
Oh,
it was.
nice.
So Macy's had actually decorated their windows
Mhm.
and stuff. That's why we waited to go then. We did the whole Central Park tour, carriage ride tour.
Mhm.
Cool. We did the Museum of Natural History, which is right next to
I
Central
have
Park.
not done that.
That what you can't see everything. It's you think the Smithsonian's big. This place is.
Really?
It's got. Oh my God! It's monstrous. It is monstrous.
I don't know why we've never done that. Is that where that the night at the museum, one of the movies? Yeah.
Yeah, both of them were. Yeah,
Okay. I need to do that at some point. I have not done
and
that.
then we went to Little Italy and had lunch like in a real legit legit Italian restaurant. And I tell you what, I was shocked. Like everything else was expensive in New York that day, but having lunch in Little Italy wasn't any more expensive than it was here. That part. We went to Chinatown and walked around, did a little shopping,
Wait.
did the whole Macy's thing.
You're
But
talking. What was freaking you out at night? And then remind me to come back to food. I need to tell you something that I was yesterday years old when I found out yesterday. Anyway, about food. Remind me to come back. I want to know what was wrong at night.
but as soon as there was something about when the sun set, it just I felt claustrophobic because
Mhm.
like you can't see stars. There's
That's
not
true.
I don't really remember any street lights. You're kind of dependent on the lights from the storefronts and
Yeah.
stuff.
Well,
I physically, Kathy, got physically sick because I just felt claustrophobic
yeah, I can
once the
understand
sun went
that.
down.
I
I
can
mean,
see that.
we were dead in the middle of Manhattan. So you're talking, we were just blocks from the world, from the Empire State Building, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we were like in the middle, like that. That whole vibe is weird to me. I've been to other cities.
I feel like it's changed. I'll tell you that. We've been going to New York for a while, but I feel like it's different now than it was. Like different in I shouldn't say this. I shouldn't say this, but I do feel like not as safe as I used to. And maybe it was more naive, but I don't know. I just feel like you said, the vibe is a little. I like my head's on swivel.
Yeah, like well, what I did was
The subway anymore.
I put all my
Oh
stuff, my
yeah,
wallet and stuff in my front pockets and walked around with my hands in my pockets.
I
And
don't do the subway. I'm scared of the subway
well,
now.
here's the thing: when we first got there, the first thing we wanted to do was because the bus parks right in front of Macy's and stays there the whole day. That's kind of where everybody comes back and meets different times or whatever. But you had all day to go whatever you wanted to do, and then had a certain time to get back to the bus. So the first thing we wanted to do was go to Central Park and do that right off the bat. So we found the closest subway station, and we start walking down into the subway tunnel, and the ceilings are like
Yeah,
they're like right there, and I'm short, and it's right on top of me. I'm like, I'm
it's
like,
so weird.
I said,
And
I'll pay
I
extra.
don't find it easy to understand. It confuses the heck out of me. I'll tell you what, the last time I went on the subway was after 9/11, and we took one down to where the World Trade Centers were. And at that time, they weren't rebuilt yet. And where we got off, it still wasn't finished from being blown up or whatever.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait, what? I mean, I saw Earth, and I'm like, I can't, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't even think we went back. I think we cabbed back. It was weird.
We ended up taking a taxi, and that's an adventure in
The
itself.
whole thing too.
Yeah, the guy's driving 60 miles an hour,
Yeah,
like, and like 2 feet from the guy in front. Like they all do that. But that's
yeah.
the funny thing, Kathy. At least in the part of Manhattan that I was in, like 90% of the vehicles were yellow taxis. I didn't see like regular people's cars very often. It's
You want
all
to
yellow taxis everywhere.
you want to hear something hilarious? Okay, so when Marty drives, I get all whatever, and he gets all whatever. We're like, like when we had that one, our one friend on that was talking about couples counseling, and she was talking about how she tries to teach people, well, honey, when you do this, it makes me nervous. That is not me. I am lighting Marty up like a Christmas tree, and he's like, "For the love of God, Kathy," and I'm like, "I want to live." I mean, it's a whole funny show. But anyway, one time when we're driving through New York and Marty's white knuckled and scared, right? And then I don't know what happened to me, Jay. I was like, this was okay. One of the first times I had seen the Empire State Building, so I was much younger, right? And we were going to Long Island to see a Rick Springfield concert in this Westbury Music Theater. It's like a theater. It goes in a
Amphitheater.
circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so we passed the Empire State Building in the car, and I was like, "Wow, Marty, how do you think King Kong really got up there? It's kind of flat." And he's like, "Are you kidding me right now? Are you serious? That is not real. Like, do you really think that's real?" And I was like, "Wow, for a minute I forgot." Like for a minute I forgot that that was not real. Yeah, you're like whatever.
But yeah, I was
What a
like
ding dong am I?
riding in the taxi was like its own. I was like scared the whole time. It weirded me out.
Well, you know what else? And they're charging you. Even when you're talking, they're still charging you. It's like go, go, go. I don't know. You know what I do enjoy up there? You would enjoy, Jay, is the shows. Broadway is if you see the right shows, like the last one we saw, we went up a year ago in May. We saw two of them actually, but we saw Harry Potter, The Cursed Child. That was really good. And I've seen Wicked up there, and that theater's really cool. The Wicked Theater, the Gershwin. The shows are fun. I like to eat food, of course. I love food and to watch the shows. The rest of it, I'm just like, I'm not going to shop there. Why would you pay all that money?
No. Uh.
The chain restaurants, whatever. But like, they have a Krispy Kreme place there that is unbelievable. Like when they come off the belt, like they just make them and they melt in your mouth. And I don't even like Krispy Kreme donuts, but there's a lot of fun stuff. But I know what you're saying about the crowds. Like we went there
It wasn't
because
really the crowds. It was the buildings. It was the
uh,
really closed in on like that.
we went. We've gone before too when it's the Christmas tree was up, and I'm like, for the love of God, did baby Jesus just land on that tree? It is like there's so many people. I've never seen so many people taking pictures of anything in my life.
And what I didn't like was one of the last things we did was actually go into Macy's, like the original Macy's,
Yeah,
and it's 9 stories tall. And of
yeah.
course, the men's section is on the ninth floor. So either you get on this old ass 1850 wooden ass escalator that just
Yes, old ass.
makes all kind of noises, or you take the elevator and there's 55 people in this elevator, and I'm like, so the escalator was taking too damn long. So I'm like, okay, let me braid this 55 people in this elevator.
I've just been in Macy's and out because there was too many people. I'm like, I can't handle
But
this.
I finally got up there and I walked around and there was like nothing there that I wanted. I'm like, I would have did all this and
No, it's not a place to shop. It's not. But
so
you know what was cool? Did you go to Strawberry Fields where Lennon, the
no.
Lennon Memorial? I'm a Beatles fan, so I thought that was kind of cool. But you
But
know,
I will.
Boston's better. I love Boston. Boston is a better city, I will say.
I do not anticipate ever going back to New York City.
Go to Boston. Go stay in Boston. There's a lot of fun stuff there.
and look, I've been to a lot of cities in my day, and they all have a big building, but it's just something
All
about.
right, read them. What's your top three cities? What's your top favorite three cities?
I love Phoenix.
Never been there.
Orlando's nice. Chicago's actually really nice.
Never been
Chicago's
to
clean.
Chicago.
Chicago's really nice. Um, Pittsburgh, I've been to Pittsburgh. I've been to Milwaukee. Um, been to Atlanta. Been to
Yeah.
Miami. Been to Charlotte. Been to
Hmm.
Phil. I drove to Philadelphia downtown. I had no problem in Philadelphia. Went to Temple University
Yeah.
right on Broad Street, right smack down and right in Philadelphia, and had no problems there. Um,
They do this weird thing where they park in the middle of the street. It's so weird.
um,
You ever been to Charleston?
never been to Charleston.
I love
And
Charleston.
DC is a city, but it's not really a skyscraper city. I mean, there are some somewhat taller buildings, but they're not big city tall. You know what I mean? It's a government city is what it is, and it's that. But so it's different anyway. I'm trying to think of any.
I don't mind. You should go to Charleston. Charleston is like so nice. It's so stinking nice. And Boston.
San Diego's gorgeous and clean, and
Which one?
San Diego. That's the perfect, absolute
I've been
perfect,
to San Diego. And
perfect weather.
you've been to LA and
Never
San
been to
Fran?
L.A., Phoenix. Um, I'm trying. Most of mine
San
are.
Francisco's kind of fun. I like that.
I'm trying to think. There's
I haven't been in the middle. I've been like around. I've literally been around. I haven't been to Texas though.
Columbus, Ohio. I
I
was
think
actually
it's
surprised
coast
at how big
girl.
Columbus, Ohio was.
I
It,
think I need water. I travel. I travel the outer edge of the United States. I think I need water.
yeah,
I need water.
you're a coastie.
I'm a coastie.
Um,
I don't know what I would do without water. It's
yeah,
weird.
I think Nashville would be pretty cool to go to.
Oh, I've been to Nashville. Nashville. Okay, I forgot Nashville. I mean, maybe there's a reason I forgot Nashville. So my top cities, I'll say that then: Boston, Charleston, and probably Nashville. And then I might like the California cities for their beauty. I forgot about Nashville. Nashville is it's
Have
a
you ever,
time. It's a minute.
have you ever flown in or out of Atlanta's? It's the busiest in the country. It's
Miami's crazy. Miami's crazy to go in and out of. I think that's the
Atlanta's
nuttiest
got
airport.
the people movers that actually you could actually
Yeah.
walk faster than the people movers go.
You ever been to the ballpark there in Atlanta? That's a
Uh,
really cool ballpark. I mean, nobody's ever going to top our Camden Yards, in my opinion. But Atlanta's got a really cool
yeah, they
entertainment
do.
complex.
It's funny they built a baseball stadium in '96 for the Olympics to have the Olympic
Mm.
baseball, and then turned right around and built another one not long after that.
I
There's
mean, they have like restaurants and you can walk outside and all around. Like, I wish that
that's what they're going to do with Cayman Yards.
I have so.
That's why they allotted all that money for the surrounding areas of Canyon Yards to kind of develop it to be more
That would be fun. Like to
apprehensive.
connect it from the casino down to really that Pickles area. That would be really good. Well, and even if stuff wound back around to the Inner Harbor, which in its day was nice.
Oh
But
yeah,
I don't
Harbor Place was a thing.
remember like they had the two strips and it was so fun. They
Yep.
had restaurants,
Restaurants and stores. Yeah,
that
it was.
fudge place where they made the fudge.
It was pretty common for folks on the Eastern Shore to take a Saturday and just
Hmm.
spend the day at the Inner Harbor. But well, although they're trying to redevelop that as part of in conjunction with all that because they've redone the convention center. They finally redid the Baltimore Arena. It's freaking. I've never been in
Yeah.
there. They because it was old as the hills. It's
Well,
like state of the art now.
they
And
need to.
now the big time Elton John just played there. Like they're going to start having big time people come.
Well, because you figure those cruise ships go in and out, it needs to be like a destination for tourism. I don't know, but I tell you what, people have figured out the Eastern Shore of Maryland. The traffic has been off the chain.
Yeah,
It's like
it's crazy.
how many people are coming over to our side? It is not. It is too many.
It's when on a well any time really on a Saturday or a Sunday. If I've
We
got
got to go to the airport tonight.
getting across Route 50,
Look, last Sunday, our Miami friends took a kid back to the airport because people flowing up from everywhere. He came back. Manny is our friend, and he's from Cuba, and he is very well traveled. And Manny's like, I am never going to your airport on a weekend ever again. I don't even know if I'm coming to your area in the summer ever again. I was like, come on. He's like, that traffic was worse than Miami and any other major city I've been all over the entire globe. And I'm like, come on, that you're exaggerating a little bit. I think he's exaggerating a little bit, but he
Well,
was like, no way, not doing it.
yeah. Well, you got to remember the roads are smaller because there's less like compared to Miami. You might have a six wide lane road to go wherever, whereas you got Route 50. It's 2 or 3 lanes.
But no joke, we might have to do something about that. Oh my god! And then something's always closed. Somebody's always having an accident.
Yeah, and then they're doing work on the bridge, so one of the lanes is always out. It's
And
just
if that's scary, it's like, why are you always doing work on the bridge? Should we be worried about that? I'm ready to get my rowboat. But here's what I wanted to tell you.
food.
Listen, we went to the beach to do a Friday to Sunday camping trip in the RV, and we always get advertising Seaborn Seafood in West Ocean City. One of our very favorite things to do because we go down to Seaborn, which is right off the dock, and they bring fresh everything,
Yep.
right? So then we go, there's certain fish that we like, and we get it and we immediately cook it on the Blackstone Grill. And it's like, I feel like I'm eating sticks of butter. It's like just melts and it's delicious and it seems like it's bad for you, but it's good for you. It's like heaven. Anyway, we're in line, me and dad, and there's a guy, and he's like, "Yeah, I went fishing, and I got all this sea bass and tilefish and whatever." He goes, "But I didn't get the lobster," and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. So you're gonna add like lobster to your feast or whatever?" And he's like, "Yeah, I should have got it," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "What do you mean you should have got it?" He's like caught my own, and I'm like, what do you mean you caught? What do you mean caught your own? Did you like go to Maine? He's like, no, there's lobster out here,
Yeah.
and I did not believe him.
Yep.
So when I got to the counter, I was like, so that guy said that there's lobster here, and she's like, yeah, and I'm like real lobster. And so they get it out. I bought it. I didn't know we had lobster. They're like, it's the same ocean, honey.
It's just not as prevalent. Like there are people that's they do for a living up that way, up Massachusetts, up at New England. Like they're fishermen that when it's lobster season, that's their way of life. You don't really. There are watermen here, but they're bay watermen. I don't know that there are really any lobster in the bay. They're out in
Right.
the ocean, so there's not really a a port that's conducive enough to do that out of here. So it's just, white marlin's the thing here versus lobster.
So we had scallops from the ocean,
Yep.
real lobster, real, and
Not pretend,
nope,
not practice.
sea bass and tilefish. I'm telling you, so good, so good, so good. I would drive there just to get that fresh fish.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite parts. Now I don't do what you do as far as getting the fresh stuff and cooking it, but just something about the food in Ocean City. It's just because
Yeah, but like you can get so much of it for cheap. Like I fed. There were six of us this time. There were six of us, and I bought $80 worth of seafood, and that's what we ate.
that just sounds good. I love seafood. I love seafood. Just period. There's not much in the way. The only thing I won't eat is raw oysters. But I'll eat
I don't eat those either.
I'll eat oysters any other way. I love me a fried oyster sandwich or oyster stew. I love crab. I love it all. Like I love eating fish. Yeah, that's
In Bermuda, they have this sandwich. Maybe I've talked about it before. We had gotten it with wahoo, and you can get wahoo here too. It's good. Um, Wahoo sandwich, and they have it breaded and fried, and they put it on raisin bread. Doesn't that sound weird? It's so good. It's
yeah.
so weird, but it's so good. So I guess it's a little bit of a the nod to Jamaican flair or whatever. Because they eat stuff too with rice and
Jerk,
black eyed peas.
jerk. Yeah,
Yeah, it's so good. But I would never have thought to eat it on a raisin bread. So
I
weird.
love raisin bread.
And then they have some sauce. I don't even know what it is. I didn't even ask, but it's good.
It's probably their version of a jerk sauce.
I think it's their version of almost like coleslaw in a way too. It's like lettuce. I guess is lettuce. I need to dissect that.
Cabbage, yeah.
I need to dissect that sandwich this time. Good.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. Literally.
I hope you digest it.
For the poop cruise.
So before we get out of here, Kathy, we were going to do a real short one this time. You've talked about actually the last several months about several changes going on in your family with graduations and new careers and weddings and
Driving a struggle bus.
driving it, yeah, and people leaving the nest and moving next door and the whole thing. And, it's funny. I struggle with change, just the little things. I'm so regimented in my ways, and anything that kind of veers from that just can throw me out of whack. And it doesn't have to be a big family change like you've gone through several here in the last few months. It just I have a hard time with that just because of my workings in my head. So I can only imagine when kind of and it doesn't mean that they're bad, and you've even talked about that. It's just different. It's not the norm is going to change. You'll have a new normal. I'm just kind of want to get your thoughts on like how I know it's early days for all the changes, but like how you guys are kind of navigating that in your family.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of change. I'm just not. I mean, well, unless it's something I want to add. I'll add new things in, but I don't want to. For me, I don't like change when it means I'm losing something, if
Right.
that makes any sense.
Yeah.
If I can change to bring something in to keep adding, but I don't like that feeling of loss. Um, so if something changes and I feel like I've lost that, I have a hard time because I become very attached to things, people, situations, and I really have to talk myself through that. And also, like, this will sound really silly, but just like Brennan being on his honeymoon. Like I heard from him a lot in the beginning, then I didn't hear from him as much, and I was like, man, he got used to not being with us really quick. But he's having a great time, so I have to juggle that. Well, does he still miss us?
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know, it's just hard. The kid thing is really hard. I had too many of them, and
You're gonna have to go through this 3 more times.
I cried at that stinking wedding. I'm going to tell you
Well,
what.
that's kind of if you didn't cry, you'd be weird. You know what I mean?
I don't know. Maybe it was weird because I was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Like what? I don't know what the heck. You play that church music and then you're walking down the aisle. What are you supposed to do? I'd probably cry at a stranger's wedding, but I don't know. It's tough. Change is tough. Getting older is tough. I just think it's loss for me. I think change is more
Yeah.
about loss for me and me having a hard time with that.
I mean,
Because you have to regroup, right? I mean,
yeah.
change, you got to regroup. And then it's like, just think about something like your trip, right? If that hotel decided they were going out of business and then you had to change, even though you could, it's still a
Yeah.
change. And maybe you don't want to do that because that's where your routines are. That's where you like.
Yeah.
So
That believe it or not, Kathy, I wouldn't really be a fan. But I get your point. Um, although, I mean, there is a comfort to knowing where I'm going, knowing all the there's a comfort to that. But like for me, and a therapist told me this years ago when I was going to therapy, how for me, and I've not officially been diagnosed with OCD, so I throw the term OCD out just
yeah,
as a term of those. I have
I'll
tendencies.
say that loosely. That's a good.
I have tendencies that way. I've
Yeah.
not been officially
Yeah.
diagnosed, and,
Mhm.
and, and he said to me, what happens often is those with certain types of anxieties who have feel like they're out of control in their mind with so many things, try to compartmentalize and pick these things that they can control to try to balance that. In other words, all these trauma things in my head are out of whack, and I'm battling thoughts of not being enough and all these things,
Mhm.
I feel at a loss and can't control because the things that happen to me were not my own doing, so I don't have control
Yeah.
over it. So
Mhm.
it can be a, but it's at least for me, it's kind of a catch-22. Whereas I I grasped onto certain things like, okay, I'm going to try to eliminate as many things that could offer anxiety to me by regimenting the things that I can regiment and at least have that. But sometimes, if just by life those things get knocked out of whack, I could have a fairly substantial anxious moment or day or whatever. So there's the threat of that, because these things that, at least in my mind, are giving some kind of order to the chaos. If the part that's order gets out of whack, that could really throw me up. If that does that make sense to you?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so there's that kind of, it's kind of a although the pendulum's kind of, I've kind of found that lane where it kind of, there's a balance, and there, I don't actually, like today with the doing this recording, we're doing it at a completely different time, and I know the last time we did that, I forgot, so this time I had to set an alarm, and um, my point is that, like, people people ask me, well, isn't it like exhausting to have to, like, to always do these things? And I'm like, it's not even a thought anymore. It's become such a regiment that it's not even a thought. I just wake up and do that day, the things that I know I do on specific days. It's not a thought. I don't consciously do it. It's become,
Your habits, your
yeah.
pattern behavior.
Um, and it's not, sure, there is an unhealthy attachment to it. Like you said, like if my hotel, something happened at my hotel in Ocean City, that's where the spiral can happen. Um, it's just it's my mind is a complex battlegrounds sometimes.
I'll tell you, the other day, Jay, I was like, reeling off of this wedding and getting ready to go away for this weekend, and some people had gotten sick in my family, and I was just like spinning. I was spinning like, great, if we all get sick then we can't go on the cruise, and what if this, what if that, what if that. I literally sat myself down and I did deep breathing. I was like, this is
Yep,
where I need to find the neutral,
yep.
put her in neutral, find our coping mechanisms. And it really did help me. I'm not always good at practicing what I preach in the middle of a crisis, but I really did. And it was very helpful.
Yeah. So it's, I don't, I I would prefer not to, and it's easier and different for me because I'm kind of a one man show in my life, so I don't. There's nobody else that I have to account for. In other words, okay,
Yeah.
I don't, I do or I do not want to do this thing. I don't have to ask someone else or checking
Just
someone.
do
So there's good and bad with that. It's not,
it. Hmm.
so it's easier for me to kind of to make a schedule and stick to it in a regimented way because I'm not. There's nobody else impacted by that.
Yeah.
And there have been times where I've been in relationships, and I honestly I didn't have a problem with adjusting and kind of creating a new thing. And they weren't always the same things on the same day. And I honestly, Kathy, I had no. It never was a thought. I didn't have a problem with it. I just think a lot of it is I like to fill my time with things I'm doing, whatever it is. So if I schedule them and I know that I can, my mind is at ease, and, because if I'm, what's the saying, idle minds or idle hands,
I
you
haven't
know,
heard that.
some kind of saying, idle minds find trouble, or
Mm.
an idle mind is the devil's, something about that. But anyway, so I try to my fill my time up with whatever. They could be just normal everyday things, but if I'm there, then my mind doesn't wander into what if, because that's, at least for me, that's kind of. the basis of my
Yeah,
anxiety. It's like, what if you create these what ifs in your mind that
yeah.
may or may
That's
not be the
a
reality? Yeah, that
The
may or may
what
not
ifs
be
are
the
a bad place. I
reality.
get there too.
Yeah,
What ifs are tough.
and they may or may not be legit. They may or may not be.
Well, it's our mind going into extreme scenario planning.
Yeah,
And
we're,
sometimes
we're, we're, we're in flight mode when we may not even have to be in flight mode. We're anticipating the flight mode.
we're over anticipating.
Yeah,
But I mean, you try to do that to keep from crashing.
yeah. So filling my time up with, and a lot of my time, a lot of my stuff is self care. So it's a win win. So
Yeah,
I eliminate time for the what ifs, and I'm filling my time with things that serve the self of Jay. So
nice, nice.
that's always a good thing for anybody. So before we get out of here, what have you guys been watching lately? Anything new since we talked last?
No, I did. I watched something old. I watched a bunch of Will and Grace reruns while I was on away on a trip. I had it in the background while I was cooking my fish fry, but I forgot how funny that show was.
I
Do you
don't
remember
think
that?
I
Did you
don't
ever
think
watch that?
I only watch bits and pieces. I don't know that I've ever watched one single full episode ever.
They're fun. It's a pretty funny. They're pretty
Yeah,
funny. But that's all I've watched. I haven't done anything. Wait, no, I haven't missed any of the Superman or anything like that. That's while we're away.
I did buy my tickets because
Mm.
they're on sale already in Houston. I bought my tickets.
I'll have to
Um,
catch it when I get back.
I did go and see this past Friday Megan 2, which is a sequel to
Oh no,
it's it's
nope.
it's an AI robot kind of.
Don't scare me. She's scary, right?
She was scary in the first one. You know what, Kathy? Honestly, this one was more like watching the Terminator.
Okay.
This one was, I thought, much better than the first one. It's a Blumhouse movie. Blumhouse is they're all about those thrillers. They're horror movie thrillers. This is more like thriller action. Kind of like, this was very much like Terminator to me. It was, I was actually pleasantly surprised. I mean, look, it's not a blockbuster movie, but it was certainly, and the first one was okay. It was decent. This one was better. I really enjoyed it. I
Hmm.
anticipated falling asleep, but I didn't. I'm like, okay, I'm digging this. So,
Do you take your? I take a blanket. I take a blanket. Yeah.
I took my jacket in only because there was a threat of rain, and sometimes I'll use my jacket because man, for whatever reason, the AC gets cranked to like 60 in there when you're in there. Like not when you first arrive, but sometime
I
during the
take
movie.
I take one of those scarves that are like wide,
Yeah,
and I use that as a blanket.
you can
I think I can go in and
tell
wrap
the
around.
people that are used to going into that theater because they'll show up
Yeah,
with winter weather and stuff.
it's funny.
Even in the dead of summer, it can get cold in that theater, which to me is better. I'd much rather be cold than hot.
Oh yeah.
Plus,
Heck yeah.
and there's the heaters on the seats are okay, but they're not quite as warm as like the heater in my car. They don't
Yeah.
heat. They're not as hot, at least
Mm-mm.
to me. I don't. They don't. They
I don't
do.
use
You
I
can
don't use
feel it.
seat
You can
seat
feel
heat.
it, but it's not that hot. Yeah.
I don't really use it. Now
But
you recline, right?
what's that?
You recline, right?
Oh, absolutely. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I recline. What I do, I have a method. I recline the feet because like you can put the feet up, but the back doesn't move until you get to a certain spot. Once I
Is
get,
that where you stop?
that's where I stop. When the back first starts to drop back, that's where I stop. Because I don't want to be laid flat back. So
Flat back.
when the back first starts to tilt, that's when I stop. So my feet, yeah, I do the
um,
whole.
it depends. It depends on my mood. I'll either do exactly what you're doing, or I'll lay back. It's not a flat back.
Because I'm so short, Kathy. If I go too far back,
I'm not short.
well, yeah.
That doesn't work.
Mark
I'm
could
sure
probably
you.
lay flat back and still see.
Now he likes to be in control. He ain't going back all the way. He's just gonna let that. He's gonna stop right at that.
I'm like literally because I do it slow and I'm like well, you know what I don't like? Like when you hit that button, you start moving, it sounds like you're passing gas.
It does.
But I'm
Just-
like, I'm thinking, I hope people don't think, I know everybody else in the theater is thinking the same thing because they
and
all do
then
that.
and then it's like I always wear a shoe that's like either a flip flop or a slip on, and I'll be like, dang it, it fell. So then I'm like, do I have to like climb out of
Then
the
you
put
go.
the whole thing again? It's going to get mashed up in the system, and then I don't know what to do with my purse. I'm like, do I put it underneath? Do I put it in my seat? It's a whole dilemma every time.
So that's where the advantage of having an empty seat automatically next to me because I just put my
You
jacket
just
there.
put your stuff in.
Yeah,
See that?
I just
No.
have I have a supply I have a storage unit right next door.
Wait, you know what I need to do? I need to start taking a bin. I need a bin, and now slide the bin under the thing and put my stuff in it.
There was a couple that showed up the other night, and you know those like beach baskets are kind of like wicker that you put your beach towels and stuff
Yeah,
in.
do you have it?
They carried a whole one in there and have pulled out blankets and stuff. I was like, damn, they were ready.
Maybe that's what I need to do, and then I can put my purse in there or whatever. You know what?
But you almost that because that was a big. I was wondering where did they put that because
Under the thing, under the thing.
yeah, but then you got to kind of reach under before you put the seat back down,
I know it's a problem.
and you
That's a
can't
problem.
because see the good thing is you can have your seat up and still people can still walk by. There's still
So the
plenty.
person next to you has to go down first, and then
Yes,
they grab the bag, then you put it down.
you have
It's
to
a
have a
two-thing
partner.
system.
You can't do a one
Exactly.
man unless you have
No.
an empty seat. Unless you buy an empty seat.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, well, I'm glad we resolved that. I'm glad we resolved that.
So see, I'm not the only one that has a strategy. There's other people that theirs was just
All right.
I'm
I'm
gonna
up
go.
in my game. I'm up in my game. I'm taking the beach bag in. It's happening. That's happening
They
next time.
probably brought like one blanket that was big enough to go over both chairs at the same time. If I had to guess, because this was a big beach.
I'm not sharing. I want individual blanket.
Oh
Oh,
God!
I like to tuck it around like a cocoon. I am not sharing in those movie seats.
Yeah.
Because then there's all this open air between the other seat. I don't want
Then what do you do with your drinks? Because somebody's drink is going to get covered up in the
that.
middle.
Now, here's Marty. Marty, oh my God. I don't even have a container. He keeps his, like, here's the popcorn. I'm like, stop. Get your hand out of there. Get it out. Like, just get what you need. Don't just be a constant feeder system.
Yeah.
We're close to having separate buckets of popcorn. I'm getting tired of sharing with
And the
them.
thing is, those arms on the chairs are pretty wide. The bucket could sit there. Obviously, you got a cup holder. You
And
can,
then, what's the cup holder? Is it the right one or the left one? Sometimes I get confused.
yeah,
I know you're on the end, so it's obvious.
it's and plus I have another seat, so I've got two to choose
Yeah,
from.
you have too. You
But
see,
I always use the right-handed one for me because I'm
these are
right-handed.
challenges you don't know about because you're not you
No,
are.
I have. It's not like I have no experience with being in the theater with someone with me. I've done that in my lifetime, Kathy.
But you forgot because you won't let anybody sit in that seat.
I mean, I don't, but I would. But it's
You
kind
would not. Well, you're not letting me.
of,
Have you
well,
changed your mind? You gonna let me sit in that seat?
no, I would not let you sit in that
See
seat.
that? That is so crazy.
And the person would have to like pass some strict qualifications to sit in that seat. I don't care if like I'm going to marry you. If you're going to talk during the movie, you and I are not going to the movies
That
together.
is. See, you made up that story. You don't even know that I would talk during that movie. I'd be so stubborn. I wouldn't even say anything to you. You could be like, you could give me this sign that you're choking, and I'm like, not talking.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. That's
You
not.
could do the Heimlich, and I'm not because I'm sitting there in silence. I'm
I
not
can
even looking.
anticipate like being in a relationship and having to either go to the movies by myself or watch them at home, where you can at least pause and say, "Okay, do you have a question to ask? Let's pause the movie. Let's discuss, and
No,
then we'll start the movie back up again."
I have a life goal to one time sit in a seat next to you.